All right, this is lesson 5. We're gonna go over the whole thing real quickly. Lesson 5 is talking about changes. You have physical changes, okay? And you have chemical changes. Physical changes means that you're really not changing anything really. In here we talked about your art project. You are taking cardboard boxes. You're cutting a big box, cardboard, and you're cutting it into smaller pieces to glue onto your skyline, okay? But when you cut that, it's still cardboard. After you take the piece of cardboard, you cut it in half, you cut it in half again, you still have pieces of cardboard. They're not the same size, but they're smaller. It's still cardboard, okay? It hasn't changed any. It's only changed in its size. Physical things, okay, that you can see. Now, the other one is the chemical change. On page 37, we talked about chemical change. Chemical is when you take two substances, mix them together, and you end up with a totally new substance. It's creating something new. It's not like going from cardboard to cardboard. It's going from going from water and CO2 that you breathe out, mixing them with heat, with the sunlight. And Fred out here, the oak tree, he takes it and creates sugar, which is called glucose. Okay? It's taking two things and creating something brand new, a new substance. And that new substance, when it creates a new substance, that is a chemical change. Other chemical changes. Let's go back to your cardboard. You take that piece of cardboard, you put it in the fire, it burns it. You pull it out. It's not cardboard anymore, it's now ashes. Okay? A chemical change has taken place. Okay? Other chemical changes. You leave your bicycle out. You leave it out forever and ever and ever. It rains and rains and rains. And the sun's heat comes and goes. And nighttime comes and goes. Many moons pass by. Years go by. And it's still outside. It's going to rust away. What is happening is a chemical change on the metal is breaking down all of that metal and changing it to rust. Rust is not metal. Okay? It's creating a new substance. The water, the rain, the humidity, and the sunlight on it, and the metal are creating rust, which is a new substance.
What's rust gonna do to the bike?
It's gonna break it down.
How is it gonna break
It's gonna
it
fall
down?
apart.
Why though?
That's what happens with it. It's like when you take the piece of cardboard, put it in the fire, okay? The fire burns the cardboard, turns it into ashes. It's a chemical change that takes place.
But like rust is still hard.
No, what you're feeling is the metal underneath. The rust is on the top. If you rub your finger along where rust is and look at your finger, what happened to it?
It gets rusty.
Gets rusty. It gets that brownish, reddish dust on your finger. That's the rust. Okay? Metal is still there, but this is the rust that's on your finger. That's the chemical change in there. If you were to go to a brand new bike and rub your finger across it, you wouldn't get any rust, would you? Okay, because you're taking care of it. But if you leave it out, rust is gonna happen. It's breaking it down into other things, into a new substance, which is the rust. Okay, that's where the rust comes from. Kellen?
What's rust made of?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to what it's made of, but it's partially with the ingredients that would have been in that metal.
I still have a bike, and it's like near my pool, so sometimes water gets on it, and then it dries off. When it gets on, it dries off. And so I had it since I was 5, and it's still there. And some of the parts of it is a little rusty.
It's a very, very slow process.
And it has a flat tire. So.
Yeah. Yes, Kelly?
Is rust like mold?
Sort of. You could sort of say that it is. Mold goes on to dead plants and dead plants and things, that what it's doing is breaking those dead plants back down into the nutrients. So you're not gonna have that leaf anymore, or you're not gonna have that blade of grass, or you're not gonna have that stick anymore. It's gonna change it into nutrients. That is a chemical change that's taking place, okay? If you start with a stick and you end up with a stick, and all that you did was broke it,
It's still sick.
it's still a stick, so what kind of a change is that? That's a physical change, okay? If you leave the stick out, leave it out there for a year, okay, in the water, in the rain, and, you know, the sunlight, everything. And you go out and, wait, I left the stick here, it's not there anymore. It's now, you know, you see where there's a bunch of dirt that's there.
It's
What kind of a change is that?
chemical.
That's a chemical, okay? It's breaking back down into its nutrients. Like Fred out here, Fred is taking in water. He's taking in nutrients that are in the soil. You know how sometimes you'll fertilize your plants, fertilize your grass to make it grow and make it look good, okay? Those are nutrients that you're putting in. Just like you're wanting snacks soon, aren't you?
Yeah, we do.
You're wanting to put nutrients in your body. And what's gonna happen is you're gonna eat an orange like they showed on the first page, where all they did was peeled it. It's still an orange, isn't it?
No, it's raw.
It's still an orange,
Yeah.
okay? So it's just a physical change that's taken place by peeling it and separating the parts. It's still an orange. Chemical change is gonna take place when you eat it, because inside your stomach you have all these acids in there that are going to break it down so that the vitamin C that's in there, for example, can go out to the rest of your body, okay?
What is mold made of?
I don't know. Let's stick with this. Now, one thing that they talk about with chemical changes and with physical changes is temperature. When you add temperature to something, when you add temperature to water or to wax, as they gave in here, it changes from a solid to a liquid, okay? Water can also then change to a gas, okay? It will change things. Chemical changes happen more rapidly with heat. If you leave a banana out in the sunlight, okay, after a few days with that sunlight, it's gonna change it. It's gonna start changing it to where when you taste it, it's not, I wouldn't taste it. I wouldn't try it, okay? But it's not gonna taste good. It's starting to rot. It's starting to break down, okay? Now, with the opposite, Joseph read that if you take the heat away to some of your vegetables, it's gonna slow down that process. So that if you put things in the refrigerator, they may last longer than they would if you put them out on just the counter and leave them there. Okay? I know that you can take bread, and if you leave it out, after a week or two, it will start molding. But you can take bread, put it in your freezer, and then pull it out, unfreeze it, and it's fine. A month later, okay? That's taking the heat away from it, okay? So what you need to know from this is basically two things: physical change and chemical change. Physical change, you are not making anything new. You're taking something and maybe making it smaller, making it bigger, but you're not making anything new. Chemical change is taking things and making a new substance. Like we talked about with Fred out here, taking the water, carbon dioxide that I just breathed out, Fred's taking it in. And he's got the sun beating on him right now, and so that sunlight, the heat, is taking the water and the carbon dioxide and changing it into sugar. Glucose is what it's actually called from a plant. And it's changing it into glucose, some new substance, okay? And that's what this lesson is about. You gonna turn it off?